Hello friends, Tanya here for the Trinity Stamps February 2023 new release video hop. Here are a couple interesting tidbits for you, and I'll tell you more at the end of the video. We are going to jump right in, and we're going to use this stitched Shamrock die, and I'm going to make this into a shaker element. I really wouldn't have to do this, but it's what I pictured in my brain first when I saw this die. So I die cut it from some pretty green cardstock here, and I took a piece of packaging and I adhered the cardstock die cut to the packaging, and now I'm going to take my little snips, paper snips here, and I'm going to fussy cut all the way around our little shamrock. Well, big shamrock. I do confess I had to pull out my cheater glasses. I am of that age where you start having to have a little help with your close-up vision. I do add another piece of cardstock on the other side of that packaging to add a little extra strength to this little sandwich of cardstock and packaging film. Now we have our shaker top, and we're going to pull out the foam strips from Trinity Stamps. These are fantastic. I like to take both sides of the backers off and then carefully place it around our shaker elements. I love that this is the perfect width and height to create all kinds of different shaker elements. I'm not going to show you applying all of it because it's the same process all the way around. Now here's another quick tip. I'm taking the Modern Embossed circle stack, and I cut 2 circles. I don't necessarily need both, but I want to be able to center this on the circle when I adhere the back. We've got the Clover cluster embellishments here, and I'm going to put several scoops in each of these little wells, and I have our shaker element laying on a circle. That will come in handy in a little bit here. I like to use the end of my pokey tool to help scoop the embellishments into each of these little wells, and the adhesive is already pulled off of the back of this, so be careful not to get your embellishments stuck to the sticky parts. Now I do like a little extra wiggle room, so I'm using my precision glue here. Don't forget that there is a Crafty Gluefriend in the Trinity store. I just can't use it because of my allergies. I do go through and apply some of that adhesive to all of those pieces of foam strip. Now I'm going to center our little Clover embellishment-ish piece here on that circle underneath it. And then I'm going to carefully place this circle over the top using that circle on the surface to help me get it centered perfectly. And look at that. Now I do place a heavyweight acrylic block over the top of this for a few minutes to make sure that that adheres super well. We wouldn't want any of our little Clover embellishments to escape. Next, I'm taking the My Lucky Charm stamp set, which also has a coordinating die set. Love this. I'm going to use this to create a background. I've got a piece of 5.5 by 8.5 inch cardstock. I've put my stamp on a large acrylic block, and I'm using some juicy watermark and embossing ink to stamp this repeatedly across this piece of cardstock. I want to make, this is one of my favorite techniques. I love to do some white satin pearl heat embossing, or you can do clear or white or gold, any number of different embossing powder colors, but I like the white satin pearl the most. It is just the most neutral, and it just is just perfect to me. Anyway, I've stamped all of these different repetitions of the stamp all over this piece of cardstock, and now I'm heat embossing this with the white satin pearl embossing powder. And you can see how wonderfully this shows up on the background. Next, we're going to take the Little Charms stamp set. And this really, it really reminds me of a very sugary breakfast cereal that many of us grew up at least seeing commercials for. And I am stamping these little images all over as fillers throughout the background. They are just perfect to go with that sentiment and to add some extra interest and fun. We're going to apply the white satin pearl embossing powder to these elements also, and we'll heat set that with our heat tool. And I did make this background bigger than I will need it, just so I can pick the parts that I think turned out the best. I did not use all of the different elements from this stamp set. I just used the moon, the rainbow, the shamrock, and the shooting star. They are very cute. Just a couple more elements to add to the background to make sure I fill this in nicely. And there we have the completing background. I'm going to die cut this with one of the Modern Embossed A7 stacks dies. I believe this ends up being 4.5 by 6.5 inches. And now I'm taking some Distress Oxide inks in Salvage Patina, Cracked Pistachio, and Lucky Clover, and I am ink blending over our cardstock to get a really nice blend. You're going to see a whole lot of green in this release because it seems to be very heavy on the clovers and rainbows and kind of St. Patrick's Day, very spring oriented. I love this theme. It's going to be something you can use year-round, not just during the spring or even just for St. Patrick's Day. Clovers are just such a wonderful spring and summer, anytime everything's green element. I happen to have some red velvet or red crimson, what do you call it, crimson clover, in my yard, and it seems to be spreading even more. I am now starting to assemble the card, and I missed talking to you about the fact that I had an extra piece of cardstock that I die cut with that stitched clover die, and then I also ink blended that with the same colors as I did on the front. Now I am ready to adhere my main element to the front, and I took that circle that I used earlier for placement as a placement guide, and I added it to the back of our embellishment just to give it a little extra height. So waste not, want not, it got used anyway. We'll add a little weight behind that to make sure it adheres really well, especially since we have all of that embossing. And now we'll take that ink blended clover and we're going to adhere that to the inside of the card. I thought this would make a great way to bring the outside of the card to the inside. I just took some of that precision glue and glued that right in. And these are the fallout pieces from the green cardstock, from the green clover from the front of the card. And we'll just inlay those inside this clover on the inside. I really like how that completes the clover and really makes it an impactful part of the inside of the card. It was very easy to put those in. They are all the same size and shape, so it doesn't matter which clover insert you put where. Next, we're going to use that My Lucky Charm stamp again. I have a piece of white cardstock and I'm using VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And I'm going to stamp this a couple of times because I really want to get a good solid inking. And then I'm going to take some clear embossing powder, sprinkle that over our inking, and heat set that. Now I did this twice because when you go to die cut these elements, you'll find that you cannot do all of them, all 3 lines from the same piece of cardstock because it will take chunks like the word charm. When you die cut that out, it takes a little bit out of the word lucky. And same with the You Are My, it takes a little bit out of the lucky also. So I have 2 of these panels that I have stamped and heat embossed. And then I pulled out some colors of Copic markers and I'm coloring those in the word lucky. I do 2 colors in each of these letters. They are big enough to do a little bit of ink blending. And I think that just adds a lot of fun to this word. I do alternate from the darker color to the lighter flipping which orientation I do that. Now the two greens I chose for the letter C are kind of far apart in colors. So I'm doing the tip to tip method to add a little bit of the darker color to the lighter color and help those blend together a little better. Now I have the You Are My Lucky Charm dies, and I'm going to go take these over to my die cut machine and die cut all of these elements out so you can see how that looks. And then I discovered that I wasn't paying very close attention to the fact that the word lucky not only cuts out the outline, it also cuts out the centers of these letters. That was kind of a fun surprise to me. I am taking a piece of washi tape here, or low tack tape, and I'm putting it behind the words carefully, each of these letters carefully, so that none of the tape will show once I drop in each of these elements. Now I have the colorful Copic colored elements that I'm going to drop into this black outline, which I die cut once I figured out what this die actually did. And I love how this turns out. It's a great, bold sentiment with these lovely, colorful drop-in pieces, however you want to call it. Now I'm going to take the black elements from the black die cut, and I'm going to add those into the colorful die cut. That is a fun element too. I don't know if I'll be able to use, I'm not going to use both of these in this same video, but I'm sure I'll be able to use the one I don't use on this video in a future card. It is just too pretty to resist using later. Here I'm putting the tape on the front of it so I can add some glue to the back. And there are the fallout pieces that I did not use. Now I have layered up the You Are My with an extra piece of cardstock behind each of them. And I'm playing around trying to decide how I'm going to place these on the front of my card. We are going to continue the sentiment on the inside, so we're only using the first line of the You Are My Lucky Charm. And I'm going to add these to the center of our shaker element. I don't want to cover too much of it because we put a lot of work into that element, and I sure as heck wouldn't want to cover up all of that fun shaker component. Now that those are adhered to the front, we will carry our message through to the inside. And I'm playing around a little bit with how I want to place these, deciding which of these sentiments I'm going to use. And I decide to go with the colorful version and with the black inset. I think that works with this background a little better. Just going to add glue to the back, making sure I am hitting the little inlaid pieces in addition to the outline. I'm going to leave that tape on there for a minute while I am adhering the word charm. I don't want any of that to come apart when I start peeling off the tape. Now I'll center this carefully under the word lucky, and that will complete the inside of our card. I just need to peel off the tape to make sure that none of that comes loose when I'm pulling them off. Now I thought that the front of the card needed a little more, so I pulled out the Lucky Heart embellishments. These just came out last month. There's some really pretty iridescent green hearts. They're all the same size. And I'm just going to add a scattering above and below our shaker element. I could have used the little tiny clovers, but I didn't want to be too matchy-matchy. These are a great green that match the cracked pistachio color pretty well. And that completes my card. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really had a lot of fun creating this card and thinking outside the box. If you liked it, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment in the below to take part in this drawing. And check that description box below, not only for the next video in this video hop, but also for the list of products that I've used today. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.